Welcome to the 902 podcast, the official podcast of the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm Captain John Vick, and I want to thank you for listening. This podcast will give you an inside look at LSO with topics and guests to discuss public safety issues impacting Lancaster County. Be sure to subscribe for highlights on news, cases, and the people working for you at LSO. You can also follow us across social media at LSO Nebraska on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Welcome back to the 902 podcast. Sheriff Wagner, Chief Deputy Houchin here as usual. Thanks for being here, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And Investigator Jeremy Schwartz back on the show. Thanks for being here, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
You've been on the show multiple times for multiple things before. We are coming up on, well, it's not an anniversary that we want to call attention to or want to celebrate, certainly the wrong word, but it's something that we want to remember and just, I guess, give the public some updates on what's been going on with the Tyler Goodrich missing persons case. He went missing
November 3rd, 2023.
Yeah. So just a year ago. I mean, this episode will probably drop. You know, we're within a week of that right now, and we'll be getting that out within a day or two of what would be the 1 year anniversary. And people can go back and listen. For a lot of details. We covered it in episode 39. And you can go back, listen to that episode. Jeremy, you're on that episode along with
yes,
Sergeant Dahlke, some friends of Tyler Goodrich, just to kind of get a flavor of maybe a personal side of Tyler Goodrich's story. But we did want to bring you back on just to talk about where the investigation's at, maybe some things that have transpired since the last time that we gave this big of a public update to the public. Before we do that, can you kind of just, again, people can go back and listen to the previous episode, but walk us through maybe just kind of the high points of the timeline from November 3rd and really even the night before, and kind of where we're at up to today.
Absolutely. Tyler Goodrich and his husband Marshall Vogel were enjoying an evening together with their youngest son on November 3rd, and they were eating pizza, watching a movie. And at the conclusion of the movie, the youngest went up to his room, and Tyler and Marshall had an adult discussion about the relationship, and there were discussions about divorce. Mm-hmm. And during the course of that discussion, it became tense, and there was a little bit of shoving taking place. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, Marshall called 911. And deputies responded. And during the course of that 911 response, Tyler learned that Marshall had called 911, and he left the residence. And he left through the garage door and left southbound through their yard, and that was captured on camera. Mm-hmm. And so when the deputies responded and they arrived, they spoke with Marshall, looked around, didn't see any signs of violence, anything that would indicate that something catastrophic had happened inside the house. And they weren't able to locate Tyler. There was no signs of, again, physical violence in the house. Mm-hmm. And so a domestic violence incident report was filed. Yep. And that was the evening. And the next morning, Marshall called the sheriff's office again after Tyler did not return home. Mm-hmm. And that led to the deputies coming back out to the residence and, again, searched the house. Again, no signs of any struggle or violence. They attempted to look for him. A report was filed. And family at that point continued searching for Tyler. Mm-hmm. And then the following day on Sunday, that's really when law enforcement began getting involved, and that was the use of drones
in the search.
In the search, absolutely. Yeah. So drones, helicopters, search on foot was all conducted, and again, couldn't find him. And so on Monday, when everyone returned to the office, that's really when our efforts increased, and we began. The criminal investigation unit got involved to start trying to find information to locate Tyler.
I'll back up just a little bit, to the evening that Tyler disappeared, and I know that there's been a lot of talk on social media. Theories on this just abound. And you talk to 5 different people, and you'll probably get 5 different theories on where things are at. But you can go everywhere from the theory that he wanted to maybe start a new life, disappear intentionally. The theory that maybe he had some sort of accident happen to him, and wasn't able to reach out for help or something like that. You have the theory then all the way on the other end that something more nefarious happened.
Yes,
and that he was the victim of some sort of foul play. So everything from one end of that to the other have come in as tips. I mean, those are things that we look at here internally as well when we're theorizing and making our investigative plans. But we're here now a year later. I think everybody wished that we could have done an episode on that we found Tyler, but unfortunately it's still just a mystery.
You know what? We put all the resources that we had available to us in the search. We used sonar for some ponds in the area to see if he was in one of those ponds. We contacted the FBI and, told them what was going on. What else could we be doing here? What else could we do? I think the behavioral sciences unit at Quantico, Virginia, became involved as well. Mm-hmm. So we've exhausted every lead, and we still continue to follow up on those as they come in.
And let's not forget the family and friends and how many times they've gone out and did searches in that area over and over again. So not just us have been out there looking. I mean, lots of his family. Hundreds of people.
So there have been some searches organized by volunteers.
Yes.
Jeremy, there's been searches that have been organized maybe a little bit more heavily by law enforcement with the help of volunteers.
Yes.
And those are all the result of, either investigative leads that have come in or just more investigative strategies to rule out, areas that we believe he may have been.
Absolutely.
With law enforcement, anytime somebody goes missing or does something, the first place you begin to look at is family, people close to them. Jeremy, can you kind of go into a little bit of that, of what we did? Because let's face it, one of the theories is that Marshall may have had something to do with that. And I just want people who are listening to understand that was probably the first place we looked and started to direct a lot of our attention to.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, with all the CSI and true crime stories out there, everybody always looks to the spouse or the significant other. And, law enforcement's not immune from that. We do that as well. We start small and then we work out when it comes to incidents involving missing people. And so, yes, we did start with Marshall. We did have an interview with him, and that interview took place several days later with his attorney. Mm-hmm. The interview was successful. We were able to collect information from him, and we used that information to essentially go after the digital footprint of both Marshall and Tyler, just to recreate the last 24, 48 hours of where they've been, what they were doing, what was taking place in their life. And then we moved, and then we can enlarge that circle, and we talked with family and friends and family that were close. And we just continued to use that information to collect additional information to try and locate Tyler. But here we are a year later, and we still haven't found him.
If you want a challenging career, a career where you can make a difference in your life, your family's life, and the lives of those in your community, come and join the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office. To learn more or to apply, visit us online at www.joinlso.com.
There was some question early on. How do you know that he left? Sheriff, we got a lot of questions about, well, did he really leave? Was that somebody else that was in that video? And the video footage, we're working with what we have. I mean, it was a home surveillance system. Mm-hmm. It's certainly not a picture of anyone's face. It's a figure that's leaving the residence. But we have some sense of facts that led up to that. It's not just simply a video that we're going off of.
Right. It's not the traditional video that we're used to collecting, where we can preserve the metadata and go in, and it's got the clear picture quality that we really want.
Yeah, that we prefer.
So we have to use what is available to us. But with that said, we took Marshall's statement, the timeline of the 911 call, the recording of their conversation and what time that took place, and then also the cellular phone data from both Marshall and Tyler. And all of that combined, we're very confident that the person in that video that was leaving the house and running south is in fact Tyler.
So that even includes some location data.
Absolutely.
From phones that corroborates that timeline of events and at least an initial direction of travel.
Yes, and that electronic data was heavily scrutinized not only by our agency, but we also had independent companies that are non-law enforcement agencies but are affiliated with law enforcement and provide analytical tools for us. Also scrutinize the data with us to try and see if we were missing anything.
Right.
And then most recently, with the help of the Goodrich family, I reached out to a nonprofit group, EquiSearch. Okay. And through my conversations with them, I was put in touch with a detective with the Major Crimes Unit with an agency outside of Nebraska, and we sent all of our electronic data to that commander, and he looked at it and provided reports for us. And the data, again, proved that Tyler did leave the house southbound, and his phone was turned off before he exited the property.
Yeah. And that's really part of the mystery is why did his phone turn off, before he left the property? And that's something that we're working to try and determine.
Yeah, and it's never been back on.
No.
And so no financial activity on any of Tyler's accounts, at least that could be attributed, to what we would normally see if someone were to pop back on the grid, so to speak.
Right.
Well, he left without his wallet too. Isn't that correct?
No, did
he have his wallet?
He had his wallet and he had his phone. And those were the two things that he normally would go running with when he would leave the house. He always had those two items in his hand. Okay.
Let's go back to Marshall Vogel a little bit, because I know there's been a lot of scrutiny on him. And, that is, like you said, you start small. There was a domestic disturbance that occurred the night before.
Yes.
I don't know if I would call it an extra step, Ben, but and Sheriff, maybe in your time, we've probably done this before, but we don't do polygraphs in all of our cases.
No, we don't, especially, on a disturbance where there wasn't a crime, but this one grew very big, and you want to turn every stone you possibly can, and that is just one of the processes that we ended up wanting to do and doing it. And Marshall was more than willing to go and do that part of it. So that one, it just shows how much people were kind of saying he wasn't trying to help or do things, and he was. That just isn't true at all. Everything we've asked from him, from searching several different times, the house, the cars, all that, him coming in, taking polygraphs, him being willing to meet with us and discuss. But I can feel he took a beating on social media for a while.
There were some logistical things that we had to work out, with him and with his attorney to start things out. But
it started a little rough, but at the end it turned out very well.
But he's since passed the polygraph.
Yeah, and really, and I think what's important for folks to really know about that polygraph is that wasn't a formal request. That was more of just kind of an off-the-cuff comment based on some social media comments. And I just posed it to him. I said, why don't we just do a polygraph? Mm-hmm. And without hesitation, it was, yes. When do I need to come in? And really at that point, I think he was in the office within a couple days. And the only reason for a couple days was just to give the polygraph examiner time to examine the case file and develop the questions they needed to ask Marshall.
Yeah.
And I was present, and he passed.
So Tyler's husband passes a polygraph.
Yes.
There's no evidence of trauma at the house.
No.
The cell phone, all cell phone data and activity stopped on November 3rd. We've checked with the cell carrier. There's no activity beyond that date.
Correct. And we were up on that phone for, I believe, 60 days, just waiting to see if that phone would come back on, and it never did.
Financial transactions have stopped. No taxes filed in the last year. No new financial activity since November 3rd.
No.
And there was recently some information that there was some reports about a dollar bill being passed with the name of or maybe somebody that was involved. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, there were two incidents where a dollar bill was passed and it had the name of a resident here in Lincoln. And it was still a mystery as to why his name was put on the dollar bill or who was passing the dollar bill. But that person was interviewed and ultimately ruled out to having no association or knowledge of Tyler Goodrich.
Yeah. We also had, there was a media release that we went and asked for the public's help on the author of a letter that came in.
Yes.
At one point. And I think I gave that briefing that day just to try and generate some help from the public to figure out who they were, because we were trying to get in touch with the author.
Yes.
And so can you give people a sense of, we want to encourage tips, but maybe give people a sense of what some of these tips end up being for us?
Yes. So some of the tips that we've gotten throughout the last year have been belated tips, tips that I think I saw Tyler Goodrich at this location a week ago, or we were at this location and we believe we saw Tyler eating in this restaurant, or we saw him at this intersection. And so those tips do get followed up on. Sometimes the belated ones where they're at an intersection, they're very difficult to follow up on just because we can't go back and review video surveillance.
At that point in time.
Absolutely. Yeah. But the ones we have gotten where we've seen him, or where people have believed they've seen him in Kansas City at an intersection, that frequent a known hotel, restaurants in Minnesota, Wyoming, those have all been followed up on. Yeah. And they just have not been successful.
Well, basically, they've been disproven that it's not him.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sheriff, we're a year out, rapidly approaching a year out on this. We're still, it's still an active case. It's an active missing persons case.
Every lead we get, we'll certainly continue to investigate those and determine if there's any validity to it, and keep going.
But the problem that we're facing at this point is just we're starting to run out of leads.
Yes.
Jeremy, there was a time that this was kind of a daily basis type of case. I mean, at one point we were doing something every day to do some sort of follow up on Tyler Goodrich's missing person case, but we're kind of reaching the point where we're just you hate to ever call a case cold, but we're definitely in a cold case type of category at this point.
We are, and for the first, I would say, 2-3 months, this was a case that I handled almost daily, and was working on one thing or another. And as the months or days, weeks, and months came and went, the amount of tips that have come in, or just the amount of work that needed to be done, has slowly it's slowed. And so I still work on it.
Yeah.
I'm still looking at things, but at this point right now, I don't know what happened to Tyler.
Yeah, I tell you, and I know you've been doing this, Jeremy, a long time. We've all here been doing this a long time. It probably ranks up there as one of the most frustrating cases because, to be honest, it's like he left and went poof and disappeared. There's just absolutely no trace after the video of him.
And that just doesn't happen in this day and age. I mean, it's so unusual.
Yeah.
Well, this case has rightfully garnered a lot of interest. Tyler had a big network of friends, people that cared about him in the Lincoln, Lancaster County area.
Oh, yes. Yeah, his family, everybody's usually his family cares, but they've really stepped up and did a lot of things out in the public and organized a lot of things to keep his name in the forefront of people.
And it's gained a lot of interest on social media. It's gained interest in traditional mainstream media. A lot of true crime type of shows have actually featured Tyler's case. Nationally and to some extent international exposure on this case. What we really need at this point is additional help from the public. Tyler needs that. Tyler's family needs that. Someone to come forward with that piece of information that gets us from where we are today to where we need to be to bring some resolution to this case. And there's a few ways people can share information with us. You can contact the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office directly. Our non-emergency number is 402-441-6500. You can also reach out anonymously through Crime Stoppers, Ben, and that's at lancasterlookout.com is probably the easiest way to get in touch with us there. That'll send you to our Crime Stoppers page. Sheriff, you can also call anonymously the Crime Stoppers phone number, 402-475-3600.
Yep.
And the tips through Crime Stoppers, the phone calls, they're all routed through. I think it's like an international number. I mean, it's routed out of the country, so there's no way that we can. Yeah,
it used to go down into Houston and then get sent back. So yeah, there's no way that we can know about that.
To figure out, we couldn't figure out who it is if we want. That's why we have to sometimes, ask for help, even identifying people if we need via Crime Stoppers. We're not trying to out anybody. But, sometimes we just need that extra piece of information to try and get us from where we're at to where we need to be.
Jeremy, do you then the one investigating, do you believe somebody actually knows more and just hasn't come forward? Or what is your thought process on that?
Honestly, I don't have an honest answer to that. I really don't. In my mind, I don't think it was based on everything we have, I don't believe it was a pre-planned event.
Mm-hmm. Everything in an investigation says that is not what happened. It was not a pre-planned.
No, and it wasn't spontaneous among any friends or family that we can see based on everything that we have. So I have a couple ideas. They're sad, accidental, something happened to them. And, suicide. Mm-hmm. We don't know.
Yeah.
Every option right now is still on the table. And we won't be able to rule out those options until the day we find him. Yep. And hopefully the evidence at the scene where we find Tyler will give us the information that we need to bring it to resolution. But with that said, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. Mm-hmm. I still hope that there's a day that we get a phone call and he just decided to start another life and is just living somewhere else.
Right. I think that's a very professional investigator answer. I mean, we all have theories and yes. we gather evidence to try and prove or disprove those theories, but none of us can really place bets on this at this point. I mean, everything has to remain on the table. Because that's what helps us do our job.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted people to know. We are open, and Investigative Source is open to everything and anything, and we're certainly not going to let this case sleep, and it will always be part of it until we've investigated to its rightful conclusion.
Well, big thanks to the Goodrich family. Big thanks to all of his friends and coworkers in the Lincoln Lancaster County area. We've got a lot of law enforcement partners that are working with us on this. You mentioned
Yes.
a few of them, the FBI, some other kind of quasi-governmental agencies that have helped us take a look at this. But just a big thanks to our people. Jeremy, you're certainly at the leading edge of that, but we've had a lot of people, Sheriff, within the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office that have worked on this case tirelessly to try and do what we can to find Tyler Goodrich, and just looking for any help that we can to get this case resolved. So thanks for the time, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
And we hope to have another update.
Yeah, I just want to say, Investigator Suarez is one of our best investigators, and I want everybody to know he's done everything he can possibly, and the family's lucky to have him on the case, because if anybody's going to solve it, it's going to be him.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, we will we'll hope and pray for a quick update to this. I'd like nothing more than to have to hold this episode because we found him prior to a year, but we'll see what the future holds for this case, and good luck to you going forward.
Thank you.
That is all the time we have for today's episode of the 902 podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. You can also reach out to us on social media at LSO Nebraska on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. To learn more about career opportunities at the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office, be sure to visit us at joinlso.com. You can also reach out to us via email at lso@lancaster.ne.gov. We hope to catch you on a future episode of the 902 podcast. Thanks for listening.